Hey family, it's Letitia Renee and welcome to Grow, Grief, Reconnection, and Ongoing Wellness. Today we're having a conversation about one of the hardest transitions for anyone grieving, and that's stepping into a new year without your loved one. The new year, it can feel very overwhelming. It's supposed to represent fresh starts and possibilities, but for many people, it feels like a very sad or bad dream you're just fighting to wake up from because it's a reminder of who isn't here. It's okay if that's how you feel right now. Today, we'll explore how to go through these transitions with compassion for yourself, with realistic actions that you can take, and a way to honor both your grief and your growth. Let's be real. The firsts are always the hardest. The first new year without them, it feels like you're standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, wondering, how do I step forward without my loved ones? Maybe you even feel stuck in time, like the rest of the world is moving on, but you've been left behind. Maybe you're dreading midnight because that's the time where it feels like the official acknowledgement that they're not here to cross over into the new year with you. Maybe you feel the pressure to be okay, to put on a brave face for others, even though inside it feels like you're just barely holding it together. If you resonate with any of this, I want you to know your feelings are so valid. You're not broken, but what you are is human. Grief isn't something you fix by moving it to a new calendar year. It's something you learn to carry differently as you evolve and grow. Let's reframe what the new year means when you're grieving. It's not about leaving our loved ones behind. It's not about pretending the pain isn't there. It's about finding a way to merge the two, integrating their memory into your life while you're still living. Think of the new year as a new chapter in your story, one that still includes them, even if they're not physically here. It's about really taking the time to acknowledge the space they occupy in your heart and also finding ways to keep writing your own story, your own narrative. Let me share a personal example. After my parents passed away, the idea of starting a new year without them, it really and truly felt impossible. Like it wasn't even something I thought about. It was like me trying through the next second, the next minute, the next hour, the next day. I kept wondering, like, how do I celebrate anything when they're not here to celebrate with me? Because we've done so many things together as a family unit. So, one year, actually, the very first year without either of my parents, instead of trying to fill the silence or ignore the pain, I decided to honor their memory in a way that was meaningful to me. My mom had never left the country. My dad had the opportunity to travel from country to country because he was in the service. So, in honor of them and in honor of me working at being in a different state, putting myself in a different space, I went out of the country. I was taking steps toward healing. It's like I experienced being out of the country for my mom, for myself too, but also for my mom. Like, this is something that she never got to experience. So at the time, I believed her spirit was with me and she was experiencing being out of the country with me. And my dad, he would want me to be happy. He wouldn't want me to be in a place of stillness or stagnation. So while I was on that trip, I soaked up the culture in a different environment and I tried my best to look at the new year with a different perspective. It was a work in progress. So for me, it wasn't about recreating the past. It was about carrying a piece of them with me into my future. And you can do the same. For you, it might look like something entirely different. Maybe it's sharing a story with someone that has never gotten the opportunity to meet them. Maybe it's starting a foundation or a scholarship in their honor. Or maybe it's as simple as pausing for a moment of gratitude for the time you had with them. The idea of facing the new year can feel enormous. So let's break it down into steps that are manageable. Let's break it down in ways to approach it. Instead of focusing on the entire year ahead, let's focus on the first week. Ask yourself, what's one thing I can do this week that feels meaningful? It may be organizing a corner of a space of your house. It may be calling a friend, or even something as simple as putting up a picture of your loved one. For some people, when their loved ones die, it's very hard for them to see pictures of them or see videos of them. You may find that as you take one small step, it creates what you would call a ripple effect, helping you feel just a little bit more capable of handling the next. Two, grief isn't always about big milestones, big accomplishments. Sometimes it's about the quiet, still moments of progress. You didn't even realize were happening. Like the time you laughed at a joke, even though you never thought you'd laugh again. Or the day you noticed it was a beautiful day outside and you actually stopped to appreciate it. Imagine if you could start noticing those little moments of healing more often. How would that change the way you see your journey? It makes it seem possible, right? Grief has a way of amplifying fear, but the only way to diminish the fear is to confront it. Let's change that word. I don't particularly like the word fear. Let's say it has a way of amplifying things that are uncomfortable for us, right? Maybe it's the uncomfortability of attending a social event without your loved one, or the fear of trying something new. 2025, challenge yourself to pick one fear and face it head on. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to try it. Hence, me sitting here before you now. I am someone that was quite reserved and quiet, but here I am before you now. I am facing an uncomfortable feeling, but nonetheless, I'm trying it and I'm moving forward. This has been a part of my healing to help others heal. You don't have to do it perfect. Remember, you just have to try it. Another thing that I've done that I've shared with you in the past is skydiving. I didn't do it because I necessarily wanted to. I did it because I was tired of letting that uncomfortable feeling dictate my life. That one act of courage or bravery, if you want to call it, it gave me the confidence to try other things I was afraid of. For you, it might be something like visiting a place you used to go to with your loved one, or just saying yes to an opportunity you would normally avoid. As we move into 2025, let me revisit what grow, GROW, means in this context. G is for grief, where you acknowledge your pain and know that it's okay to feel what you feel. R is for reconnection, where you're finding ways to reconnect with yourself first. Then you can reconnect with the memory of your loved one and the life you're still here to lead and live now. And OW is for ongoing wellness. Healing is a journey. There's no set path for healing. Sometimes you can go left, then it's go right. Sometimes it's a detour. It could be a little bit chaotic, and it's a roller coaster of emotions that come and go. Focus on what you can do today to take care of yourself, no matter how small it seems. 2025, I encourage you to approach yourself with grace. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be okay every moment of every day, because that's being phony and it's not being true to yourself. And that's hard to keep up with. But you do deserve to move forward with courage, knowing that it's okay to take that first step, not because it's easy, but because simply you are worth it. As you step into this next chapter or new chapter, you might start to notice that courage shows up in the smallest of actions, and that's enough. How about we reframe the concept of the new year? Because it's not about getting over your grief, it's about acknowledging where you've been, who you are now, and where you are headed. Healing doesn't erase your love or your memories, but what it does do, It allows you to create a future where the pain no longer holds you captive and it no longer holds you back. In my own journey, I had to face fears that I didn't even realize were tied to my grief. I was so hesitant to use my voice at one point. So I became part of something that's known as the Toastmasters. Toastmasters is where you practice speaking in front of others. I gave my first speech shaking the whole time. And each time I faced an uncomfortable feeling, I felt a shift and the heaviness in my chest, it started to lift. So for you, healing doesn't have to mean skydiving or public speaking. It can feel like any step, small or large, that is meaningful to you. You might be wondering, how do I begin to heal when I feel so heavy? First thing you have to do is decide what healing means to you. Healing isn't a one size fits all. Maybe it means learning to enjoy the little things again, whether it's taking a walk or listening to music you love. Maybe it's about reconnecting with things you used to do or hobbies that you used to have. Or it might even be deciding to reach out for support. It could be through friends, through a counselor, through a specialist. You may find when you define what healing looks like for you, it becomes easier to see the steps you need to take. Fear, it often shows up as resistance. I take that back, not fear. That uncomfortable feeling often shows up as resistance. Resistance to change, resistance to trying new things, resistance to letting go of the familiar. 2025, challenge yourself to take one fearless action, or rather, challenge yourself to take one uncomfortable action. Maybe it's saying yes to something you would usually avoid, or saying no to something that no longer serves you. After the loss of my parents, I decided to stop avoiding places I used to go to with them. I visited one of their favorite spots, which was a restaurant, of course, because I love some delicious food. But instead of feeling weighed down by sadness, I felt a sense of connection. Imagine what it would feel like to take that step and realize you're capable of more than you thought. Remember, healing is not about perfection, it's about progress. Maybe you didn't cry today when you thought about them. Not that crying is a bad thing, crying is perfectly okay. Maybe you reached out to someone instead of isolating yourself. These things can be looked at as small wins and signs of healing, and they deserve to be celebrated. Each time you notice progress, allow yourself to feel the sense of accomplishment. And the more you notice it, the more it'll grow on you. This new year, 2025, I encourage you to approach yourself with grace. You don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to be okay every moment of every day. But you do deserve to move forward with courage. Not because it's easy, but because you're worth it. As you step into this new chapter, you might start to notice that courage shows up in the smallest of actions. And that's enough. To everyone listening, this surely may not be the year that you envision, but it's yours. And you have the power to shape it one step at a time. Grief does not have to define your future, but what it can do is be your teacher, and you grow from it. 2025, let's honor the love we've lost by embracing the life we still have here on earth. I'm so proud of you for showing up here today, for listening, for feeling, and for being here. I will see you next time as we continue this journey of grief, reconnection, and ongoing wellness. Until we meet again, be ushered into healing, because I see you. Keep healing one step at a time.